Madam Contest Master. Jobs. Americans want jobs. And no country has been more successful than creating jobs than China. Why do they do it? How do they do it? Will we learn from them? Why do they do it? The Chinese Communist government fear chaos of 1 billion people. They fear that if they don't provide good jobs for their people and keep strict order, that there'll be revolution and they'll be shot. How's that for motivation? A friend of mine connected with J-Bill stayed at a beautiful Western compound in Peking, and she said there were 20 armed guards at the gate. And she said, "Tom, there's no crime." I said, "No crime, 20 armed guards? What's this all about?" And she said, "They just have to put their people to work." Apparently they're not afraid of makeup jobs. Out on the West Coast, a little over a year ago, there was a business meeting. And President Obama asked Steve Jobs, when will the manufacturing jobs come back from China? How can we get those jobs back? And Steve said, they're not coming back. Let's go back a little earlier. Steve Jobs was in his company, and he had several of his bigwigs together with him, and he dragged out one of his smart devices, and he says, "You see this? It's all scratched, just like my phone is, because there's plastic in it." And Americans carry their keys in their pockets and their devices get scratched. And I won't have my products getting scratched. You've got 6 weeks before the new phones come out, and I want this changed. So those people knew, get the job and done 6 weeks, or don't bother showing up. That day, one of the people at the meeting took a flight to Shenzhen to China. By nighttime, they were waking up workers in a nice way. They gave them tea and biscuits, but they were retooling to go to the glass. See, glass is difficult to work with. That's why people hadn't used it before. It's very hard. It's very hard to cut. Well, in 4 days, the workers in Shenzhen had turned out 10,000 units. Now, the people who were under pressure for these Apple jobs went to Shenzhen to interview to see who would get the contract and where all these jobs would go to. And while they were out there, they said, "Oh, let us show you this building we're working on." And they had a wing of a building almost completed. And they said, "Well, that's just in case you give us the contract. We'll be ready to go." Now, if your butt were on the line and you had to retool in six weeks, and you saw a building already up, who do you think got the contract? Well, of course they did. Now, there's no way that Foxconn, by the way, all high-tech devices, all computers, all your smartphones, they're made in Shenzhen by one company, that's Foxconn. It's a company that varies between 230 and maybe 500,000 workers. Low wages, it's true. Chinese workers make $17 a day. But that wasn't the real issue. Workers, Apple workers, earn about $400,000 a year for the company per employee. They could afford to have a lot of well-paying American jobs. They could well afford to have those jobs in the United States. But their goal is to have the best job done. And really, the heart of manufacturing these smartphones and devices, it's assembly. You've got maybe 200 parts, maybe more, from all over the world. You might need wire from Korea. You might need something from Sweden. Well, in Shenzhen, they've planned for it. All those devices are there. Assembly is easy. If you need a screw made, they'll make a screw for you. If you need a part from here, it's available 5 minutes from the factory. They're ready to go. Also, they have 55,000 well-educated engineers. So they have a brain trust that's more than we have amassed here in America. So they've got brain power, they've got flexibility, they've got commitment, they've got low wages. And this is all from a planned economy. Now, will we learn from China? I hope so. They're eating our lunch. Here the debate is, should we have no government at all? Should we reduce, if we reduce the federal government's role in our economic life, then jobs will just instantly appear. Like fizzies, isn't it wonderful? One thing you can bet on, the Chinese won't be reducing their role in a planned economy. You can also bet on that they won't be debating it in China. But that's okay. Their people are too busy working.